Is this the craziest year that we've ever seen from the AL Central? I'll give you my thoughts next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned in to another edition of Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. And you can listen to us on wherever you download your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners wondering how this channel works, in a normal week, I would bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes in length, and that'll go until about January, but not going to be able to get a Friday episode out, so our Mailbag Friday will be moved to tomorrow morning. But if you want your question to be answered, I'd strongly consider responding to the video from last night that we had or the video that I'm about to post, which is just this one. So just title it Mailbag Friday, Mailbag Thursday, Mailbag, whatever you want it to be, and I'll be sure to answer it in that episode. If you want to look for the recap right after the game, you can check out Chance Lebo in the Locked On Royals postcast. He has just 5 more to go, posted one last night, and should be good to go for the rest of the week. Before we get started, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on your first purchase. This was something that we teased a little bit to close out last night's episode, and it's a West Coast road trip for the Royals to wrap up the season. Last night, I want to say that we got it posted around 12:45 or 1 a.m. It was a late night for me, but the good news is you can expect this episode to be in the afternoon, and then the Mailbag Thursday will be very early tomorrow morning. So you're not going to have to wait around until after these games for any sort of content from me. But we teased this segment on the American League Central. And if you've been living under a rock, you would not know that the Detroit Tigers, who have been leading this division from start to finish, are now no longer in first place. At least if the season ended today, they would be a wild card team. Now, we'll see what Houston does. They lost game 1 against the Athletics, but the Tigers have blown a 15.5 game lead in first place to the Cleveland Guardians. The Cleveland Guardians, the same team that lost 10 in a row earlier this summer, that looked dead and gone at the very end of August and early September. And you would have thought on August, like 23rd, something like that. Now, the Tigers were just more so about getting their September call-up, some reps there, giving the everyday guys some rest. I mean, really, their scariest moment came when Tarek Skubal had to leave a start because he had some rib cage discomfort. Like, that was the scariest it got for Detroit until about a week or two ago when Cleveland really closed the gap. And we had seen Cleveland kind of catch up a few times in the summer where maybe they were 6 games back or 5 games back. It's still a pretty hefty lead. But when that thing got the double digits, I'm not sure anybody, even Royals fans, thought Detroit was going to be releasing that lead at any point. I mean, they had a pretty firm grasp of it. But here they are going into tonight in danger of completely being out of first place without the tiebreaker. Because they have the same record, but the Guardians have the tiebreaker over them, and they've got 2 more to play in Cleveland. And the Tigers just threw Tarek Skubal. So it's not going to get any easier for Detroit. And I asked this question to a few people, and I feel that everyone's going to have a different answer to this. But with the way the Royals season has gone, which has been hovering around 500, got your hopes up, let you down, got your hopes up, let you down. Would you rather, if it was to take both of these scenarios, would you rather be the Royals and deal with that? Well, let's say the Royals finish 82-80, like never really had a firm hold of a playoff spot, but they were in the hunt the entire year. But you didn't really go through a tremendous letdown. Or would you rather be a Tigers fan dealing with what Detroit has gone through, which, keep in mind, it was bliss from March to the end of August. The entire season, you got to show up to games, show up to the ballpark, go to the bar, enjoy that team, and never really have to worry about, oh, no, we can't lose this series, right? So can't take that out of the equation here, because I know there will be some people that say, man, if the Royals were in first place the entire year and then collapsed at the end, I still got to see them in first place, and I didn't know about this collapse, right? That's the difference here. The easy answer, if we all knew the outcome, would be, well, I'd take the Royals situation because I wouldn't want to see the worst collapse we've maybe ever seen in the game in the final month of the year to a team that we feel we're much better than. But if you didn't know about that, you can weigh both options. The Royals never really had a point in the season where you felt great about their playoff odds. Maybe you were more of an optimist and you thought, oh, yeah, this stretch is going to firmly put them in the playoffs and they're never going to look back. Or you're more the pessimist, which we've had plenty on this podcast, of there's no chance that they're going to be able to hold a lead or they're going to be able to catch up. It's wild to me that a team like Detroit, who seems so set up for a deep postseason run, are collapsing in the way that they are, especially since 1 year ago, the Tigers were that team that shocked the world. They were down and out. They were under 500 going into the final week of August, and then played better than anybody else in the sport. Got to the postseason, and then eventually got to Game 5 of the ALDS against this Cleveland team. Cleveland, where you have to tip your cap, is that they are just the epitome of consistency in the regular season. They're a bit volatile in the postseason. We've seen them get to Game 7 in the World Series. We've seen them get knocked out in the first round. So it's not that they have been this consistent bunch all the way through, but they are always a tough out in the regular season. And moving into next year, even if Cleveland doesn't add anything of significance, if Cleveland goes in this offseason, whether they make it or they don't, which at this point I believe they will, it's either going to be Detroit and Cleveland, or, I would say the Astros could catapult themselves into it. And by the way, I got to give some praise to a few of our listeners that when we were talking about Seattle, and they got to catch Seattle, you perfectly pointed out, why are we not talking about Houston? Houston's a team that can fall off. And here they are, a game out of a playoff spot, chasing Cleveland and Detroit. But I just don't see a world in which Cleveland, with the way they've been playing, is going to all of a sudden slump in the final couple games of the regular season. Detroit, I could see, but Houston is limping at this point. But for Tigers fans, if you make it to the postseason as a wild card team, do you really feel great about it? I mean, the postseason is the postseason. But they have been probably thinking about buying tickets for Game 1 of the ALDS at Comerica Park for months. And to see a collapse like this, I really can't recall a time in which that's happened. We can talk about Minnesota's collapse last year in the AL Central. You don't have to go too far, but Minnesota was not the front runner. Minnesota was a team that was incredibly banged up. They didn't make any moves at the deadline, and then they just fell off a cliff at the very end. And Detroit had the best record of anybody in baseball in that final month. Cleveland was that front runner all season long. The Royals tied them, and then in September, Cleveland pulled away. They played really good baseball along with Detroit. The Royals did not in the month of September. They really just tried to hang on to that last playoff spot. But for Detroit, a team that has a great lineup, Riley Green, over 30 home runs this year. He's got 110 plus RBIs. Gleyber Torres was an all-star. Spencer Torkelson's had over 30 bombs this year. Javi Baez was an all-star, but he's not even playing every day anymore. Zach McKinstry was an all-star. They're catching depth. Dylan Dingler's had a pretty fine season. To me, it goes back to the bullpen. They just have not had that stable of a bullpen, which has allowed this collapse to happen. Cleveland, as we always know, has that stable bullpen, that lights out bullpen, and they had to make up for Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz getting put on the exempt list for gambling, or the investigation into them gambling. Nothing was going well for the Cleveland Guardians. But there's a reason why Stephen Vogt was the AL Manager of the Year last year, and that just doesn't wear off immediately, right? When you look at the way he manages his players, they clearly never gave up on winning this division. They certainly never gave up on making the postseason, but now they had closed the gap I mean, Cleveland's got their sights set on hosting, right? They are setting their sights on being a division winner. And if they win, 4 of their next 5, they're going to win the Central, of course, because that would mean them taking at least one more from the Detroit Tigers. But to see that for Detroit fans, I really do feel for them, because I thought, these two teams, the Royals and the Tigers, were going to be neck and neck all season long. It was more so Detroit just putting themselves out ahead of everybody, but it's why you play 162. It's why you can never overreact to large leads or player performances, before September. I mean, yes, you can start to get a pretty good idea about who some of these guys are going to be and what your team's going to be in the first couple months, but this can always happen. Teams can get red hot and you can get ice cold at the very last part of the season and you can lose that lead. So we'll see how it all plays out. Tigers and Guardians will still play 2 more at Progressive Field, and then they're going to wrap up with a final 3 over the weekend against different bunches, of course. Okay, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, I want to talk about the second base spot for the Royals. Do they go with Jonathan India next year? Do they go with Michael Massey? Or who knows? Do they go with somebody we're not even talking about? That's next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can listen to us on wherever you download your podcast. 2 sponsors we want to tell you about. The first, beginning with Rugiet. What do you do when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence, pure confidence. If you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet and Go Long. And that's exactly where Rugiet's Go Long comes in. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to rugiet.com and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for 50% off your first order. Again, that's 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com with promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Make sure to use our code so they know that we sent you. Also want to tell you about the title sponsor in Gametime. There's nothing like catching a baseball game live, the energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person. But actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. That's why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on your first purchase. Those terms apply, so again, use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, ticket, go, and download Gametime today. This has been a topic of conversation that has come up multiple times over the last few weeks, just because as we near the offseason, at the end of this weekend, we will be looking ahead to 2026, what the Royals may look like, who they may be targeting. In fact, we're going to be talking about that in the third and final segment, though I'll do more of an in-depth breakdown as we get into the offseason. Like I would say next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, unless anything jarring happens with the Royals, we will be talking about guys they'll be targeting. I'm sure the Royals will have their end of the season press conference. We'll break down that. But then I want to start looking at guys they could add this offseason. When it comes to second base, I thought for maybe the last few weeks that they are going to give Jonathan India another go. They are going to chalk up his 2025 season to bad luck, where he was never really healthy. He got banged up in April, played through some stuff in the middle of the season. And now as we are nearing the end of the year, can you remember the last time Jonathan India started the game? He's not on the injured list, by the way. The Royals are not playing him. They are putting Adam Frazier out there, who may or may not be back next year. They are playing Michael Massey out there, and that's good for Massey because he had not been healthy either all season long, and then he's played very well since coming off the injured list. And so this kind of is the time to open up that discussion again. Do the Royals run it back with Jonathan India, who they traded Brady Singer for, who's got 14 wins this year for Cincinnati, though he didn't pitch as well last night in a huge and pivotal game for the Reds against the Pirates? But that was a guy that could have helped you out this year. With as many injuries as the Royals went through, Brady Singer could have given you that depth. I've always asked myself, though, if Brady Singer was never traded, do we see Noah Cameron this year? I know they had a plethora of injuries, so maybe the answer would be yes, but not till later on in the year. But to have Brady Singer, you might not bring in Michael Lorenzen, or, maybe things are different with Chris Bubich. I don't really know. But the point is that trade happened. Joey Weimer's no longer in the organization, and Jonathan India is a guy you're going to have to make a decision on in the offseason. Where I would make my argument for not bringing him back is I just don't see if the upside's really there. I mean, if Jonathan India is healthy and he shows up to spring training healthy and plays really well in spring training, I'm not sure you look at what he could be in 2026 and say, we have to have that in our lineup. Like, we are banking on the upside and we are banking on his ceiling, and that is going to transform our lineup. And yeah, if you got rookie of the year version of Jonathan India, you're going to feel really good about your bat at second base. It's been more than a few years, though, since that rookie season. I mean, that was 2021, and it's starting to look like the outlier in his career. He had a 4.1 WAR that season in 150 games, hit 21 bombs, and got on base at a 376 clip with an OPS of 835. He has never gotten higher than a 750 OPS since that year. He has never hit higher than 249 since that first season. He has never hit more than 17 home runs after that rookie year. He has never hit more than 29 doubles after 34 in his rookie season. I mean, these are all things that you need to factor in. He had the 116 OPS plus in 2021. The next highest season was last year at 105. But the other 3 years, 88 with the Royals, 98 and 23 with the Reds, and 94 with the Reds in 22. That's still a below average bat. And with the defense, I mean, my goodness, it was awful this year. And I don't want to completely blame Jonathan India. I believe putting him in left field and in third base kind of screwed with everything defensively. I just don't know if you go into the year, if we rule out the rookie season for Jonathan India, his next best year was last year in Cincinnati, hitting 248 with a 357 OBP and then an OPS plus of 105. It would be fine for the lineup, but is that something where you roll the dice and say, yeah, if everything works out, that's what he can do? I'm not really sure that moves the needle for me. And him not playing in these last couple of weeks, at least not starting in these last couple of weeks, maybe that is the writing on the wall. Maybe that is telling us that they don't really view him coming back. As for Michael Massey, you can make that same case, where the best it's ever gotten for Michael Massey is an exact league average bat, 100 OPS plus. He's going to hit 260 to 270. He's going to get on base maybe at 295 to 300. Maybe you can get a little bit higher than that at 310. Not going to hit for much power. Might run into 15 to 16 home runs, but for the most part, you're not counting on his power. And I go back to spring training where I sat down and talked with him about his back injury, the one that flared up a lot in 24. And he just kind of said, well, I'm not sure it ever really goes away. I'm not sure it's something that I'll ever be able to completely get rid of. It could always flare up. And that concerned me a little bit of, well, you could be playing well. Michael Massey could be hitting 300 early on in the season. And that's what I thought was going to happen with the way that he had progressed in the offseason, had ended 24, and then played in spring training. And that's on me. That was foolish to fall for the offseason trend and spring training numbers. But he had a disastrous year. He is a much better defender than Jonathan India. But to play, Adam Frazier a lot more than those other two, that maybe signals that they're going to be looking for other options in the offseason. Now, you would need to make a move with Jonathan India. He's not a free agent after this year. You would have to get rid of that contract, which I believe it's just a 1 year or additional year of control that he has. So it would be close to $10 million, I want to say. I think it's in the 8.5 range. Is that worth it at second base if you're the Royals? Or do you cut bait and try to significantly upgrade that position because your infield is missing one more guy to make it one of the better infields in all of baseball? You've got Garcia at third, Bobby Witt at short, and Vinny at first. You get a league average batter slightly above at second base, you can make that case that's one of the better infields in all of baseball. And if you add a defensive element to it, this guy can play the position much better than Jonathan India, then you've got something working there. What I'm feeling right now, I have shifted my opinion. I'm starting to believe that they're not going to have Jonathan India back. They would rather go with Michael Massey, but the third option of this, would they go after somebody in free agency? I can't rule it out because these are two guys that they just aren't playing every single day the rest of the way. And I believe that at bare minimum is telling us a little something about what their future may hold. We'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, I want to bring up a free agent name that I feel would be a good target for the Royals. That's next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can follow me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. Our last sponsor we want to tell you about is FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. I'll go with those two massive college football games in the nightcap on Saturday, Alabama and Georgia, and then Oregon and Penn State. I'm going to go money line with both of these picks. I am going to take Oregon to take down Penn State, and then I'm going to take Alabama, the Crimson Tide, to take down the Georgia Bulldogs. Free agency is right around the corner. I know that we have to wait till the World Series wraps up, and then we can start reading off those articles of landing spots, and we can read some of those rumor reports of, oh, the Royals might be interested in so-and-so, or they're going to be targeting this specific bat. I thought I'd get out ahead of it all because I feel that this offseason is going to be another busy one for the Royals. You can't miss the postseason and then sit on your hands. And we haven't seen that with J.J. Picollo as the acting general manager of this ball club. And John Sherman is willing to give him the money. I mean, when they lost 106 games, they overhauled the roster the next year. They tried to be aggressive last offseason. They were able to land a couple of pieces here and there. I mean, Carlos Estevez was a bigger contract. Jonathan India was a big trade at the time. You need to go bigger than that, though. That can't be the same type of offseason. You got the guy who is going to lead the league in saves, but then you had a well below average second baseman and lost some pitching depth because of it. Maybe you do have to look into trading another pitcher to get a big time bat because we know the offense is going to be the focus. And if the offense is going to be the focus, what have you heard me say before? They not only need to get that middle of the order bat, they have to strengthen the depth of this ball club. And if you're going to go the platoon route, well, there's a couple of guys that come to mind. So Mike Yastrzemski is someone the Royals could look into bringing back. They have not had great outfield production for the last 2 years, and you could go much longer than that. Mike Yastrzemski is going to be a cheap name out there. You could probably bring Yaz back on a one-year deal worth $5 million, maybe even a little less than that, depending on when you would be signing him. But if you're going to go get Mike Yastrzemski, you have to find his equal from the right side or a little bit better from the right side. They tried it with Randall Grichuk. Randall Grichuk's been not very good whatsoever for the Royals. So you just look at the numbers. Unfortunately, he did not turn into what the Royals thought he would be. A lefty crusher. Mike Yastrzemski crushes righties. You put him together. That's a fine piece for the outfield. I feel that the guy they need to target, and this one is more so about the bat than it is about the defense, though this guy can play pretty much all over. I love bringing in Rob Refsnyder, who's been a mainstay in that Boston lineup when facing lefties. Now, he is loved over there, so it's not going to be easy. And I'm sure if we have any Red Sox fans listening, they're not going to like that I brought up his name. But against lefties this year, I mean, he has some of the more drastic splits that I can really see around Major League Baseball, and somebody that's going to be an unrestricted free agent. You're not going to have to worry about an opt-out or any clause or anything like that. In 38 games, or excuse me, where did I have that pulled up? Right here, the platoon splits. In 55 games, 135 plate appearances against lefties this year, Rob Refsnyder has hit .301 with a 400 OBP, a slug of .566, and an OPS of .966, 7 bombs, 25 RBIs. He has struck out 32 times in those 135 plate appearances, but he's also walked 19. Against righties, he slashes .222, .279 with a .365 slug. So well below average. You do not need to be playing him against righties, and the Red Sox don't. They play him against lefties, and it's a great platoon bat to have. But I feel the Royals are more of a platoon team than Boston really ever tries to be. You want to have a strong right-handed bat off the bench to face lefties. I mean, everybody wants to go with that. But I almost feel that you could intrigue him in the offseason with, you'll play a lot, right? We are a team that loves the platoon. When there's a lefty out there, you're in the game. And for Mike Yastrzemski, maybe he wants to go be an everyday player, but if he can play all 3 outfield spots, I don't feel that they should take that for granted. So in targeting someone like that, I mean, Refsnyder is 34 and he won't turn 35 until basically opening day. So you've got 2 guys that are in their mid-30s. That's not very exciting. But if you're trying to upgrade the bottom part of this lineup, if you're trying to get better in those areas, this is the cheap way to do it. You're not going to be able to load up the bottom of your lineup with guys that are making, $15 to $20 million. That feels like the perfect Royal move. With as much as they platoon, if I'm putting Rob Refsnyder in there over Nick Lofton or Randall Grichuk, I like the upside of it. I really do. I feel there's consistency there. And looking over the last couple of years that he's had, I know that in 2024, he was also good for the Red Sox, but he's played in 68 games this year. You could entice him with, you're going to play over 100 games this year. Maybe not quite 100, because if you're only in there against lefties, how often are you really facing lefties on the season? I guess we'd have to wait and see on that. But last year in 93 games with Boston, hit .283 with a .359 OBP. Also had 11 bombs. The year before that in Boston, a .365 OBP. The year before that in Boston in 57 games, a .384 OBP and hit .307. So that will be the tough part for him, is that he might have felt that his career got revived at Fenway Park. And hitting there with the Green Monster, that does wonders for him. And hitting at Kauffman Stadium is much, much different. I feel that the price range would be very affordable. Boston may view him as one of their glue guys, and you don't want to lose that in the clubhouse. You don't want to take away one of the stars of that locker room. When I mean stars, I mean the guy that everybody gets along with. I honestly don't know, though. I don't know Rob Refsnyder. I don't know how he fits in the Red Sox clubhouse, but I would say that in hearing some of the interviews, he is liked there. And those bench bats, those platoon guys that can hit over 300 against one side, that is valuable. And Boston had a lineup that even after Rafael Devers continued to torment other pitching staffs. If that's a route they want to go, that makes a ton of sense to me. Mike Yastrzemski to hit the righties, Rob Refsnyder to hit the lefties. That can be one of your early moves that you make. Improve the bench a little bit, improve your platoon splits, and maybe that's where we start and talking about the offseason. Who are some platoon players that you can boost this lineup with? I'm not sure I want to see Kyle Isbell as an everyday center fielder. And truthfully, he hasn't been an everyday center fielder. He only really plays against the righties. You just see far more righties than you do lefties throughout the season. Is there a guy from the right side that can be a better bat than Isbell and be a fine defensive center fielder? You're probably not going to be as elite as Isbell is. But to have an upgrade offensively, those are the advantages you need to be looking for, because those will be the easy, affordable options that the Royals can check off their box, as they make their way into the winter meetings. That'll do it for our Wednesday edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I have been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every day. For your second, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow morning, it'll be our Mailbag Thursday. Then we are done for the week. So strongly recommend you to respond to this video. Give me your mailbag question, and we'll be answering all of them in tomorrow morning's episode. I'll be posting that around 8 a.m. probably. So I will be recording a little bit later on in the afternoon. If I miss it, I'll try to answer it by the end of the weekend. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.